as we develop a particular strategy that we want to test, we first try it out in a study involving a small group of kids. We use a single subject design methodology that allows us to look to see if the strategy works. Very, very closely we monitor what's happening with individual kids, and we delay the treatment implementation across them to help us determine whether or not the effects are actually due to the treatment. Then what we do is we tend to move up to either a quasi-experiment or a true experiment, but we have our graduate students deliver instruction, so it's still pretty controlled. So it's a second and more rigorous test of the treatment, but not at the point where we eventually need to be, which is teachers applying it. But what those first two things allow us to do is make some adjustments in the strategy and even the teaching if we think that that's necessary. And then when we go to talk to teachers, we can say, this is what we think you're likely to get. We can't be positive. It's your classroom. We don't know your students as well as you do, but we do have some preliminary evidence that it will work with kids. We want to try this out in a real situation. And at that point, we're usually running a controlled true experiment where teachers are randomly assigned to either provide the instruction or not. And then at the end of the instructional study, we provide the professional development to the teachers that were in the control condition. It's not so much from the hard data that we end up modifying SRSD. So let me give an example. If we're doing something on persuasive writing, kids write something persuasively beforehand. That gives us, from a research purpose, a baseline, but also we can look at that with kids to see, once they have some sense of what the basic elements in a persuasive essay are, what are the things that make a good essay, are those in their essay? So that's kind of a starting point for thinking about, okay, what we're going to do and what's going to be useful to you. First time we did this with kids, they resented in many ways, and rethinking it, I agree with them. You're looking at something and it's really not very good, and somebody's kind of pounding that home on you. So what we ended up doing was we switched when we actually did the look at that initial data. So we would model with students helping us write a persuasive essay, so you're going to do well, okay? And then what we would do is we'd go back and we'd say, remember that first essay that you wrote, let's take a look at it. And we would look at the performance and we'd graph the two so that they could visually see the difference between the two. At that point, you don't have a lot of resistance because you're doing so much better now. So, it seems really simple and obvious, but things aren't always that simple and obvious when you're initially creating something.